Today we're gonna talk to you guys about how to cut a Cali. Real quick before we do that though, a lot of people have asked me about this gun, the Interchange Pro. This is just based off the NR83A, which is this gun right here. This is one of the originals, Tachi NR83A. This is back in like early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. This gun was amazing. Really digging this little tonneau cover setup. Never thought I would. We'll take that, and I've got everything I need. First thing we're gonna do, level that ridge back over, mark it out. We had to use a laser on that side because of how big it was. This side's a different story. So what we need to do is make sure that this is the same distance all the way across here by prying this out. So we've got a little bit of a different reveal here from wall sheathing up to here. It ain't a big deal, it can get fixed in finishes. We do have these trusses that all stuck out a little too long back here and a little too long out front. I didn't go through and trim each and every one of these. They should have been good from the factory, but they weren't because the truss company wasn't that great. So that goes across. We need to push the middle out a little bit. That takes care of that. All we're gonna do is go off the top there. And since we want our ridge to be level, that's it right there. We're still on the top of there. We're gonna mark the bottom of this. We're gonna check to see if this is level. Showing that top could come over a quarter. So I'll cut this and I'll cut it a quarter shy. We'll nail it here, suck that top over. Now that we've got this where we want it as far as on that outside wall, I'm gonna take and blast through 16s through the bottom cord into the top plate. And in the meantime, we'll pull a number on this guy. We got 76.5. We'll talk about the back cuts and more. So we have a 6 and 12 tying to a 6. We know that our number needs to be 76.5. Crown is there. 76.5 is the long point. What you're gonna do, since you want a nice level cut, is you're gonna take the pitch of the roof and subtract it from 90. So we have a 26-degree pitch right now. You're gonna subtract that from 90, which gives you 64 degrees. I'll show you just how good that works. There are other ways of doing this. Instead of doing the math and calculating out from 26 to 90 and then getting 64, you could take your square just like this, and you're just gonna mark right where that 6 is. And then you would just take your square, flip it out, and mark it out. Same difference. That goes there, just like that, straight to the back. That needs to come up a little bit on that side. That's beautiful. Before I do that, I want to nail down the bottom. We'll start working the rest. Just gonna tack that. I'm gonna throw a level on that and make sure that's good. Actually showing it can come down just a little bit. We're gonna take it off. We're gonna trim a little bit off of it. We also have a bit of a variance that we were trying to pick up. That's looking lovely. Now we need to make sure that the number from there and there to here is the same, meaning that we are perfectly symmetrical, or else what'll happen is the rafters on both sides will end up wrong. So what we're gonna do is just hook that outside sheathing, since I can hook that on both sides, and go to the corner. 117 1/4. That's 117. That's 116 7/8. That's 116 7/8. So right there's perfect. Now, typically I'd tell you guys to string line this and make sure that the ridge is nice and straight. Sure you guys can see my ridge is all of 4 feet long. These lookouts are going to come back 21 3/4. Ultimately, it's going to be just like this. So once you butt it, you have 21 3/4. So all it really is 24 centers. We have 2 rafters. So you're gonna lay this out on both sides. If your ridge is any longer than what I've got here in front of me, I highly suggest you go ahead and string line the top of it. So now we need to do 2 things. This needs to be sheeted the rest of the way out, and then we need to go ahead and put our sleepers down. So in the meantime, let's pull a number down here. We've got 23. So we're gonna put a 23 all the way down, all the way across. Then we'll go ahead and install our sleepers, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Now we can put that sleeper in. Those can go down there for a minute. These are going to be our lookouts. We'll talk about those shortly. Depending on the state you're in, these requirements will change. Other areas, you don't want a sheet before you do your overframe. Oh, it's real close to fitting. Cut that. Now we're on to the fun stuff. So we've sheeted out the remainder of this. We have our ridge in place. The gable's plumbed up. Everything's good to go. We know that we need to come up from there to here and from there to here. Here's how we're gonna do that. We're gonna need a little scrap piece of cut off, and we're gonna cut a 45 on this. For the most part, Cali should be somewhere close to 45. I don't know how accurate my 45-degree cutting is without a square. Huh. Yeah. Not too bad. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this down here and we're gonna line that up. See how this plane's right here? Where 1.5 inches on here meets that. We're gonna go ahead and mark it right there. Come up here, same thing. 45 degrees up against there. Plane's right there. We're gonna mark there. This will all make sense shortly. This one here, plane's in right about there. Those come in at the same spot. Down here, plane in right there. We're gonna snap from here up to here. Since I'm rolling solo, I'm gonna have to snap these by myself with my trusty helper nail. So we're gonna come down. This is all gonna make sense real shortly. So per plan here, I need to go from there down to there and there to there with 2x10 sleepers. We are gonna bypass the use of a 2x10 and do doubled up 2x6. Same exact thing. It's not gonna change a thing. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this one at 9 foot. This one, in theory, should be the same. 9 foot. We're just gonna cut a 45. Take and pull 9 feet over, give it a little bit extra. The only thing that I really care about is that this cut up here is clean. In order to achieve that, we'll cut the bottom on that 45. And if it's not perfect, I'm not too concerned with it. It'll go right down there. So what we're gonna do to make sure that this cut up here comes out as close to perfect as we can get it, we're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna put this sleeper on the back side of that, line up the top there, and I'm just gonna take and scribe this. So we put the sleeper on the top of that line there and put a scribe piece next to it. Gave us the answer of 49 degrees. Now we're gonna cut it for length. We're gonna line that up on the bottom there. We're gonna line that up at the top there. So that's what I was getting at. This bottom here doesn't look perfect, but that doesn't matter all that much. The only thing that matters is we plane on that line and out to the side. We scribe the top of this to get this degree perfect because I want that to be nice and clean. Now we can go ahead. We know that that's a 49. We'll cut a 45 on the bottom, 9 foot up to a 49 up here. We'll put that piece in. As soon as we're done with that, we're gonna double these up and put another one right here. We're gonna be 9 foot to a 49 long point. We'll get our bottom good. We want our top to come through right there at that plane mark that we marked up there. And then on these guys, any of your trusses that come down, you want to make sure you're nailing off on. So now what we're gonna go ahead and do is double up on both of those and run those out. There. Same 2x6. You don't have to do the head cut up here. You can just run a square piece, something like 93 inches long. We have this freebie from our cutoff. Go ahead and slap this in here. We'll just cut a little remainder piece there. We'll go 30 and a half, 145. I don't have any more scrap, so this one we'll just pull an actual number on. We're gonna be 96 and a half inches. We'll go 96 and a quarter from square to 49. We're using 16Ds to fasten everything, as you should. We're gonna go ahead now and pull off of that gable for our layout, that 2-foot mark and the 4-foot mark. Then I'll show you how to cut the rafters. So you're gonna hook that outside. We pulled centers. So hooking this outside your 23 and a quarter, which when you put the rafter in lands perfectly center at 2 foot. That's our 2 foot on center. And this will be our 4 foot, 47 and a quarter. Now it's simple. If you have a big roof, like the one over there, you either need to set a nail or have 2 people measure it. But we're gonna take and hook right there, go to there. We got 29 and 7/8. We'll go 29 and 3/4. A lot of people get confused on how to cut these, so we'll go over that pretty in depth. Same thing, line up there. We got 55 and a half. So 29 and 3/4 and 55 and a half. We need to cut 2 of each. And yeah, we'll throw these in, show you guys the fill, talk to you a little bit about the lookouts here, and this overframe's done. Let's start with the 29 and 3/4 number. We'll cut that first. See if I have any cutoff that works first. So we got 2 free ones. Anytime you're cutting rafters, the pitch of the roof is what you're gonna put on your head cut, which is the cut that goes up against the ridge here, like this. So that is a 6 and 12 right there. That puts our pitch at our 6 and 12. But this bottom cut, everybody gets tripped up on this bottom cut, because you have a 6 and 12 up here, but we need to cut and bevel for this to land on here. So here's how we do that. We know our number is 29 and 3/4 to our long point down there. We're gonna mark this from hooking here, which is up at the ridge, 29 and 3/4. And now what we're gonna go ahead and do, remember how we calculated out that right up there? We took the pitch of the roof 26 degrees, subtracted it from 90, and we got 64. This is the same exact thing, because you need to think about the fact that this ran over and was a level cut here. This is running down, we have a level cut there, since it's landing level on the roof. Granted, we do have a bevel, it is landing level. So we're gonna be 64 degrees. We're gonna take and mark that. Now this is where it gets really confusing for some people, is you need to make sure that you rip this on the right side. If you cut this way, this doesn't work for this side and it's too long for that side over there. So each of these you're gonna have to cut specific. Make it easy on myself, I'm gonna go ahead and just pin this down. But this one, that needs to be our long point. So I'm gonna go ahead and run the saw this way on a 27 degree. So You may be used to cutting things on, say, a 45 or a 22.5. When you cut things like this, you need to think that this rafter is coming down and landing on a 6 and 12. So that is the pitch we need to cut on it. So 27 degrees, 26 degrees for a 6. That's what you should end up with. So this cut here is the pitch of the roof, subtract 90, and this bevel here is whatever roof pitch you're landing on. So if you were landing on a 4 and 12, this bevel would be a 4 and 12 in degrees. If you were landing on a 6, it'd be 6 and 12 in degrees, which is 26. We're gonna line that top up right there, just like so. This ridge has a little bit of a kink to it. And you can see that our long point lands up perfect with the outside there. And along with that, this lands perfect. That's why you have to have a double sleepers to where you get full bearing. Let's go ahead and cut that side, cut this side and this side. We've got 55.5 on this one. Let's go ahead and use our other freebie first. So that same number, 29 3/4, we're gonna cut the opposite side here. Same thing, back cut 64 degrees. These were hands down one of my favorite things to cut when I first got into this industry, because I don't know, it just lets you go crazy and have fun with it a bit. So this one, we need the bevel to go the opposite way since it's landing down on that side. So this needs to be our long point. In order to achieve that, we'll start the cut here and go that way. This is what tricks people up most times, is you have to cut different for each side. $55.5, we've got one here and we've got one here. You don't have to put anything up against here. This is your first rafter and that's your second. You'll have a little fill up at the very top if you need it. 55.5, we'll cut 2 of those. Same deal, you're gonna have one cut one way, one cut the other. The easiest way to do these, since I caught a couple freebies and had these cut off pieces from another side of the roof, I was able to just go ahead and cut the bottom portion of them. But easiest way to cut these always is to cut the bevel first. You're not gonna mess up cutting a head cut, you know, you're gonna mess up cutting this bottom. Make sure crown's good. We're gonna go ahead and cut this side first, so we need the long point to be bottom that side. So we'll go ahead and cut that way. 27 degrees. Now we'll go ahead and pull 55.5 inches from out here to the long point. Much easier to cut that bottom first and then come up here and cut the head cut. Head cut's just that 6 and 12 right there. Disregard the hips and valleys right here. We're working strictly off of commons. So we're gonna have 6 and 12 at the top. We'll cut this, slap this one in. Make sure our saw is set to 0. I love that when there's just no nails in the gun. This is a good example here. You can see this cut is a little bit too far over the end. Instead of going through the trouble of taking this off and recutting it, we're just gonna shift that over to where that planes out and we'll pin it. We'll go ahead and cut 55.5 the other side, throw that in. So we're gonna go 64 for this one. We need the long point to be down on that side, so this needs to be our long point. In order to achieve that, we're gonna cut this way. 27 degrees, pitch of the roof. I think it's 26. $55.5. 6 and 12 on a common. Once you build a couple of these, everything is the same. Biggest suggestion is check your structural pages. Sometimes they'll have different hardware. Sometimes they'll have you pressure block up here, put blocks along there. Sometimes they'll have you put hardware up here. Sometimes it's just raw wood to wood connections. Depends on the engineer. Get some back nails. Come out of here, plane that bad boy. So you've built a Cali. That's our wrap. For me personally, now I'll add my lookouts going all the way back. Those will shove out, tie everything together really nicely. Now, depending on where you're at, like I said, engineering could change. Engineer could want you to run your sleepers all the way through and your ridge on top of the sleepers. This is exactly how they want it built here in California, minus the fact that I didn't do a 2x10 sleeper, I did double 2x6. But let's recap this really quick and go over what we've done so far. We made sure that the gable was nailed off where it was supposed to be. We made sure that the gable was plumbed up. We took and leveled from the top of the ridge out this way and marked it right on the sheathing. That's our original mark. We made sure that was perfectly level because we want this roof, when you're looking at it from the side, not to be wonky either way. So that's perfectly level. We cut our ridge, we installed our ridge, nailed it through the outside, and nailed it down here. Before we put anything down permanent, we pulled from here and here up to the center and made sure that ridge was perfectly centered between the two. We matched up the numbers. If you have 117 here and 118 here, you need to move over till you have 117.5 on both. That's how you make sure this ridge is right where you need it to be. If you have a ridge that's any longer than this, if it's any longer than say 6 to 8 feet, you need to make sure you put a string line on it and that the ridge is perfectly centered. If you don't string line on a longer run here, like we have out on the front, your rafters aren't gonna work out. Now, once we had that, we took our little planing block, our 45-degree block, and we planed there, here, here, and there. We snapped those for this and this. We then ran sleepers with a 45-degree on the bottom. We scribed the top here to get this cut to where this is a little bit cleaner. This is 49 degrees up top. The bottoms don't have to be perfect down here. The top up here I do like to be pretty clean though. We went ahead and nailed those down and we used 16Ds, 3 of them on each of the trusses that we've got along here. So this joint here, we have 3 nails and 3 nails there. This joint here, we've got 3 nails and 3 nails there, all the way down both sides. Once the sleepers were in place, we went and hooked the ridge. We hooked the outside of the gable, 24 on center all the way through. We did the same on the gable down here, 24 and then 48 here on both sides. We then pulled our number from top to bottom, top to bottom. We talked through these cuts right here. You have a 6 and 12 head cut up at the top, which is always gonna be just the pitch of the roof in degrees. The cut on the bottom here is what we call a level cut with the bevel of the roof here. So on the saw, you're gonna cut the pitch of the roof, which is 26 degrees. That'll change depending on the pitch you're working on. And then on the square here from one side to the other, that number we figured out by taking the pitch of the roof and subtracting it from 90. So 6 and 12 works out to 26 degrees. Subtract that from 90, you get 64 degrees, and that's what that is across the bottom. So 64 degrees on the square, 26 degrees on a bevel with the saw, and you have perfect cuts. And like I said, check with engineer, see what you've got going on your own plans. But for the most part, that's what you need to know. You need to know your level cuts, you need to know how to cut those rafters, how to lay everything out, what a sleeper is. Some places don't require sleepers. Some places you can get away with just stacking stuff directly on top of sheathing. Not here. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned a thing or two. If you already knew all this, awesome. Pass it along to somebody else. But see you guys next time.